Welcome back, casual gardeners. YouTube gardeners have been talking about chaos gardening for over a year. Here is MI Gardener talking about it a year ago.
So there's a method of gardening called chaos gardening, and chaos gardening is basically just letting Mother Nature do work for you.
So why am I talking about it? I think because chaos gardening really matches my personal ethos as a casual gardener. Before we get into it, we should probably define chaos gardening. And for me, that means any gardening that doesn't rely on a lot of planning. You're not putting your specific crops in specific areas. Things are not in neat little rows. Depending on your climate, you may or may not even water it unless you're using a different definition. Because as Gardener Scott said,
but it really comes down to what you think it is and what you think it should be and how you choose to do it.
I agree. Because I am a casual gardener, I've always been growing with various degrees of chaos in my garden. This area right here, next to my chicken run, is my pollinator patch. And it is literally a chaos garden. I have a mix of annuals, native plants, and perennials that I've just kind of scattered everywhere. And hopefully they're going to reseed, and they're going to fill in, and it's going to be beautiful with very little effort. I do weed this garden, and that is mostly because we get a lot of non-native invasive weeds coming in from my neighbor's garden, and I'm not cool with that. My vegetable garden has been closer to a chaos garden this year because I didn't put as much thought and planning into what I would grow and where I would grow it. In some ways, that made gardening a lot easier this year than last, but there were also some drawbacks. The benefits and drawbacks of chaos gardening are the rest of this video. You don't have to put as much effort into planting a chaos garden. You just scatter your seeds and see what happens. Chaos gardening can boost the biodiversity of your garden, and it may increase the benefits to birds and pollinators and other beneficial animals that we live around, because we're combining things in ways that they might not otherwise be combined in. There is a certain degree of natural pest control in a chaos garden because a lot of pests aren't terribly mobile. Aphids are a great example of that. And a lot of pests are at least relatively specialized. In a chaos garden where things are not necessarily next to each other in neat little rows, it may be difficult for your pests to find their next meal as readily as they would in a conventional garden. You may see improved soil health in a chaos garden because you've got different root structures and different nutritional needs from all of these crops that are just kind of mixed together. And because of that, they might utilize the soil more efficiently, but that is still up to the luck of the draw. Nasturtiums are edible. A chaos garden may be more resilient, where some plants fail, other plants may thrive, and by mixing them all together, you might luck out. A variety of blooming plants are going to be fantastic for your local pollinators. This might be a great way for beginner gardeners to get into the hobby because you don't have to know anything. You just get a selection of seeds, throw them on the ground. You may end up with something that is really quite aesthetically appealing. I mean, over here next to me with the nasturtiums and the tomatoes all being chaotically lush, it really is quite striking. Or behind me where I've got all these flowers, it looks really good. You may get a similar vibe with a chaos garden and you might like it. But it's not all sunshine and roses in a chaos garden. Let's talk about the cons. You're gonna get unpredictable results. So if you're really counting on some vegetables that you really hope to enjoy, good luck. Some seeds will thrive, others may not germinate at all. It's chaos. You may find that a chaos garden is more difficult to manage in some ways. It's going to be harder to get into your garden and do any necessary weeding or pruning, depending on what you want to do. If you're committed to the chaos, of course, you're just going to leave it all alone. I've had competition issues in my somewhat planned garden. It's going to be worse in a chaos garden. And it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to supplement whatever the needs are for whatever plants because they're scattered around. Young plants can all look the same. A careful, studied eye may be able to distinguish between a seedling weed and a seedling vegetable, but many of us gardeners might struggle with that, especially before we've grown our true leaves. So in a chaos garden where everything is scattered around, it's going to be a lot more difficult to spot those weeds early and take them out. Whereas in a neat little garden where everything's planted in rows and grids, the outliers are going to be super obvious. Some people are going to feel like your chaos garden looks messy. Your HOA or your neighbors or your apartment manager might get on your case about it. And there's really not going to be much you can do about it if it happens. Because of the dense growth that you tend to get in a chaos garden, if you live in an area where slugs and snails are an issue, they're likely to become more of an issue. I can also see how you might have more woodlice and more earwigs in a chaos garden than you would in a more traditional garden layout. So that's chaos gardening, or what my mom just called fairy gardening. With my pollinator patch, I have learned that it is a fun way to fill in space that you are otherwise going to struggle to figure out what to do with. But aside from that, it's just not for me. If you are a beginner gardener though, and you think chaos gardening might be a way to get over your analysis paralysis and jump into gardening, I say go for it. If you want to have the best fight of your life, bring up religion or politics. These are very political chickens, by the way. They have strong feelings about it. Too many of us talk about politics as if it is impolite or it's a dirty word. Polite people don't talk about politics. Is there politics in farming or gardening? Yeah, it's political. Anytime we want to come to a social agreement about how things should be structured, we're doing politics. And I think that treating it like a dirty word that shall not be discussed, or worse, treating it like a team sport where we root for our home team no matter what, is a recipe for disaster, and so does she. So maybe instead of treating politics like a dirty word or a team sport, we should actually try to understand what's going on in our political landscape, because that will impact the rest of our lives and how well our children live. We should be more informed. We should be more willing to have discussions. We should be more open to new ideas. And we should maybe stop acting like demented cheerleaders who love our home team no matter what. Because when we do not hold our politicians to account for their views and their statements and the laws that they pass, when they know that we'll support them no matter what, just because we're on their team, they stop acting in our interests and begin acting in their own. Thank you for joining me all around my garden today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your own garden.